Hey everyone, this is Chris McCabe of e-commerce. Chris coming back again with some suspension trends. I think I might call it appeal trends for some of these videos because we're still seeing lots of errors in judgment and mistakes being made by sellers who either have their whole account suspended or, especially at this time of year, middle of Q4, closer and closer to Black Friday, people getting their top selling ASINs taken down, flagged for whatever reason for review. Sometimes those listings are actually suspended and deactivated. You have to appeal to get them back. Other times, Amazon's just threatening to take those down if you appeal, or if when you counter the notification, you don't give them sufficient info, they're not happy, then it will eventually be suspended, right? Which, if there's a bit of a time lag, means that by the time they read your appeal, it might be the night before Black Friday. You definitely don't want to be dealing with appeals problems. So the first words of advice I've got is don't do hasty rushed appeals. That's nothing new. We talk about that all the time, but spend your early moments of diagnosing this problem, researching and fact finding what may have caused it. Could it be a competitor attack? Could it be something you did? It could be a member of your team or staff or some service that you hired, maybe doing something that you weren't even aware of. So take some time to research it, do some fact finding, some digging before you do an appeal that accuses Amazon of screwing up, or before you blame a competitor for attacking you. Figure out what kind of an appeal you're going to need, because if you burn the first couple of appeals just guessing, they're not going to pay attention to you on those two appeals, and it may harm your odds on future appeals because they might think you're guessing every time out. You haven't done your homework. You haven't taken the time to really research what's going on. Why should they spend time on it if you didn't spend time on it, right? I know it's hard to think of these things in the heat of the moment. And when you're trying to fix a problem, this is the worst time of year for most people to have their brand negatively impacted like this. But it speaks volumes that you take some time to put a real strategy together instead of just winging it, or even instead of just immediately reaching out to somebody like me and assuming that we're going to be able to kind of read your mind and figure out exactly what happened. You're going to need to do some digging on your side anyway, right? I would be asking you questions you would have to answer, even if you did hire us to do it for you. So why not do that step first to figure out whether you even need help? Maybe it is an Amazon mistake. Maybe it's a technical glitch. Maybe they sent you the wrong message. That happens all the time. Sometimes they ask for appeals in a message where they just sent you the wrong message. They're not even looking for the kind of appeal that they mention in that message. Maybe you can reach out to account help, or if you have a paid account manager, get them to open an issue assistance ticket on your behalf. Maybe you can solve it on your own. It's definitely better to solve something on your own than to just reach out, grab somebody out there who may or may not be an expert, may or may not be a seasoned service in this sort of thing, and just grab one of their templates just to feel better that you're throwing something at Amazon, and then figure out what might have happened. Because, it's the same thing as the person in school who was constantly raising their hand to answer questions and hadn't thought through what the answer to the question might be. Did your teacher want to listen to you randomly guessing? No, they probably thought it was sort of a waste of time. They wanted all their students to think about an answer and then raise their hand. It's kind of the same thing with these seller performance or policy enforcement teams, right? They don't want to waste their time on something that you didn't spend any time on. So think in terms of strategy. I know at this time of year, there's a lot of hasty appeals. There's a lot of knee-jerk reactions whenever something terrible happens. And it's maybe comforting and convenient to think in terms of the sooner we appeal, the sooner we solve the problem. But that's not Amazon logic. That's your own desperate panic type logic, which typically you're not making your best decisions when you're panicking like that, or when you're desperate, right? Put some time and consideration into it, because if you do a thoughtful, professional grade appeal, it's going to be better received on the other side, right? And they're going to spend more time reading it. They'll probably contribute to a higher quality amount of time that they're considering what is in your appeal, the content itself. Certainly don't just grab templates or fill it with buzzwords or any kind of jargon that you found online somewhere. They see right through that. Not only does it show them that you didn't take the time to research anything, it also tells them that you didn't really have a strategy for appealing. You're not sure what's going on. they're not going to give it a time of day. They're looking for reasons at this time of year to skip appeals. They can quickly annotate on your account. This is just a basic template, or, canned copy and paste content that you found somewhere. Maybe you found it in a previous appeal that you did. I'm not saying that you're just Googling and finding these things or looking on Reddit. If it's something that isn't customized, that doesn't suit the situation, they're going to figure that out very quickly. One of the mysteries, even after 10 years of this type of consulting and the 6 years I did at Amazon before that, one of the mysteries that still baffles me is why sellers don't expect investigators or seller performance team members. Why do you not expect them to know a lot of these templates from previous appeals they've read earlier that hour, earlier that day? I see people making huge mistakes, sending in stuff that I've seen hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times with only minor changes. Maybe they're templates or appeals that you've seen before because you paid somebody to do appeals for you before. All you're doing is shouting to Amazon, I didn't have enough interest or effort or time to put together a proper appeal that you would spend time looking at. I wasn't that interested in doing it. I didn't care enough about my business to do it. That's the message you're sending these people. I mean, do you really expect them to sit still and read through a 2, 3, 4 page document, or look at your attachments, or even look at the account annotations if you've appealed previously? Do you really expect them to drill deep into it when you didn't give it the time of day and you dash something off? It's just not the right way to handle appeals. And this is the worst time of year to be making those types of mistakes. So have a strategy. And also, if you do bring in a consultant or a service to help you with this stuff, and they do convince you of a certain strategy up front, make sure they don't suddenly abandon that strategy halfway through and start testing anything they can think of, wildly flinging things at the wall to see what sticks without explaining to you the potential damage of changing strategy. I mean, if there's a well thought out, reasoned um, approach that they've come up with, there's a true pivot required because of new information that comes at you from Amazon, either from account health teams, or as I said a moment ago, from your account manager, if they come back with something, or if in the appeals or escalation process, you find out new information, which tells you our strategy was incorrect. It made sense at the time, but it no longer makes sense. We need to pivot. We need to change. Well, certainly the first message is don't continue appealing along the same lines. If you've got evidence to the contrary, that doesn't make sense. But it also doesn't make sense to change strategy simply because the person you brought in to help you doesn't sound like they know what they're doing. Sounds like they just applied a strategy that they used with a previous person. They thought the situations were analogous. They don't appear analogous anymore, or possibly they're just recycling an appeal they gave someone else and it didn't even work with that prior person, but they're giving it to you anyway because that's all they have and they're not sure what else to do. Again, Amazon people are probably going to recognize some of these copy and paste templates. That's usually what's being used in those situations. They're not going to take it seriously. They're not going to take you seriously, right? So at this time of year, you can't really afford to make misdiagnosis mistakes early on and appeal using the wrong language, addressing the wrong type of problem. But you also can't afford to make these kinds of mistakes where you're regurgitating generic content. They know you're doing it. You know you're doing it. Maybe the service provider you've hired knows that it's generic content. No one else has any better ideas. So that's what you end up sending in because the clock is ticking. That's not going to work. It doesn't work in Q4. It just costs you more in Q4, of course, but it really doesn't work any time of the year. If you're in the middle of a situation like that, if you're concerned about how it's going, especially this month, November, this is peak. If you think that you have to change gears quickly and do some emergency surgery on some appeals problems you're having because they're costing you tens of thousands of dollars a day, which is typically the situation with brand owners that I speak with, let me know, ask me some questions, post some comments, or just contact us directly, support at ecommercechris.com. And any questions on this video, of course, let me know. I'll be happy to respond to you as quickly as possible. Time is of the essence, and no one has time to mess around at this time of year. So I will get back to you as quickly as I can. Thank you.